right, good morning. We're Artemis Fowl and we're reading the end of chapter 5. Root emerged shaking from the pod. He didn't remember it being like this in his time, although truth be told, it had probably been an awful lot worse. Back in the chalet days, there was no fancy polymer harness, no auto thrusters, and certainly no external monitors. It was just gut instinct and a touch of enchantment. In some ways, Root preferred it like that. Science was taking the magic out of everything. He stumbled down the tunnel into the terminal. As the number one preferred destination, Tara had a fully fledged passenger lounge. 6 shuttles a week came in from Haven City alone. Not on the flares, of course. Paying tourists didn't like to be jostled around quite that much, unless, of course, they were on an illegal jaunt to Disneyland. The ferry fort was crammed with full moon overnighters complaining about the shuttle suspensions. A bulliger sprite was sheltering behind her ticket desk, besieged by angry gremlins. "There's no point hexing me," squealed the sprite. "There's the elf you want right there." She pointed a quivering green finger at the approaching commander. The gremlin mob turned on Root, and when they saw the triple-barreled blaster on his hip, they kept right on turning. Root grabbed the microphone from behind the desk and hauled it out to the extent of its cable. "Now hear this," he growled. His gravelly tone echoing around the terminal. "This is Commander Root of the LEP. We have a serious situation above ground, and I would appreciate cooperation from all of you civilians. First, I would like you all to stop your yapping so I can hear myself think." Root paused to make certain his wishes were being respected. They were. "Secondly, I would like every single one of you, including those squalling infants, to sit down on the courtesy benches until I have gone on my way. Then you can get back to griping or stuffing your faces or whatever else it is civilians do." Vicious. No one had ever accused Root of political correctness. No one was ever likely to either. "And I want whoever's in charge to get over here now." Root tossed the stand on the desk. A blare of whistling feedback grated on every eardrum in the building. Within fractions of a second, an out-of-breath elf-goblin hybrid was bobbing at his elbow. "Anything we can do, Commander?" Root nodded, twisting a thick cigar into the hole beneath his nose. "I want you to open a tunnel straight through this place. I don't want to be bothered by customs or immigrations. Start moving everybody below after my boys get here." The shuttleport directly swallowed. "Everybody?" "Yes, that includes terminal personnel, and take everything you can carry. Full evacuation." He stopped and glared at the director's mauve eyes. "This is not a drill." "You mean?" "Yes," said Root, continuing down the access ramp. "The mud people have committed an overtly hostile act. Who knows where this is going?" The elf-goblin combo watched as Root disappeared in a cloud of cigar smoke. An overtly hostile act. It could mean war. He punched in his accountant's number on his mobile. "Bark. Yes, this is Nimbus. I want you to sell all my shares in the shuttle port. Yes, all of them. I have a hunch the price is about to take a severe dive." Captain Holly Short felt as though a sucker slug was drawing her brain out through her ear hole. She tried to figure out what could possibly have caused such agony, but her faculties didn't stretch to memory just yet. Breathing and lying down were all she could manage. Time to attempt a word, something short and pertinent. Help, she decided, would be the one to go for. She took a trembling breath and opened her mouth. Said her treacherous lips. No good. Incomprehensible, even by a drunkard gnome standard. What was going on here? She was flat on her back, with no more strength in her body than a damp tunnel root. What could have done this to her? Holly concentrated, skirting the edge of blinding pain. The troll. Was that it? Had the troll mauled her in that restaurant? That would explain a lot. But no, she seemed to remember something about old country and the ritual, and there was something digging into her ankle. Hello? A voice, not hers, not even elfin. You awake then? One of the European languages, Latin, no, English. She was in England. I thought the dart might have killed you. Aliens inside are different from ours. I saw that on television. Gibberish. Aliens inside? What was the creature talking about? You look fit, like Muchacho Maria. She's a Mexican midget wrestler. Holly groaned. Her gift of tongue must be on the blink. Time to see exactly what kind of craziness she was dealing with. Focusing all her strength on the front of her head, Holly cracked open one eye. She closed it again almost immediately. There appeared to be a giant, blonde, fly staring at her. Don't be scared, said the fly. Just sunglasses. Holly opened both eyes this time. The creature was tapping a silver eye. No, not an eye, a lens, a mirrored lens, like the lenses worn by the other two. It all came back in a jolt, rushing to fill a hole in her memory, like a combination lock clicking into place. She had been abducted by two humans during the ritual, two humans with an extraordinary knowledge of fairy affairs. Holly tried speaking again. Where? Where am I? The human giggled delightedly, clapping her hands together. Holly noticed her nails long and painted. You can speak English. What sort of accent is that? Sounds like a little bit of everything. Holly frowned. The girl's voice was corkscrewing right to the middle of her headache. She lifted her arm. No locator. Where are my things? The girl wagged her finger as one might at a naughty child. Artemis had to take your little gun away and all those other toys. Couldn't have you hurting yourself. Artemis? Artemis Fowl. This was all his idea. Everything is always his idea. Holly frowned. Artemis Fowl, for some reason, even the name made her shiver. It was a bad omen. Fairy intuition was never wrong. They'll come for me now, you know, she said, her voice rasping through dry lips. You don't know what you've done. The girl frowned. You're absolutely right. I have no clue what's going on. So there's no future in trying to psych me out. Holly frowned. It was obviously pointless playing mind games with this human. The mesmer was her only hope, but that couldn't penetrate the reflective surface. How the devil did these humans know that? That could be worked out later. For now, she had to figure a way to separate this vacuous girl from her mirrored glasses. You are a pretty human, she said, voice dripping with honeyed flattery. Why, thank you, Holly. Why, thank you, Holly. I was in the local paper once. I won a competition, Miss Sugar Beet Fair, 1999. I knew it, natural beauty. I bet your eyes are spectacular. So everyone tells me, Julia nodded. Lashes like clock springs. Holly sighed. If only I could see them. Why ever not? Julie's fingers curled around the glasses stem. Then she hesitated. Maybe I shouldn't. Why not? Just for a second. I don't know. Artemis told me never to take these off. He'd never know. Juliet pointed to a view cam mounted on the wall. Oh, he'd find out. Artemis finds out about everything. She leaned in close to the fairy. Sometimes I think he can see inside my head, too. Holly frowned, foiled again by this Artemis creature. Come on, 1 second. What harm could it do? Juliet pretended to think about it. None, I suppose, unless of course you're hoping to nail me with the mesmer. Just how stupid do you think I am? I have another idea, said Holly, her tone altogether more serious. "Why don't I get up, knock you out, and take those stupid glasses off?" Juliet laughed delightedly, as if she was the most ridiculous thing she'd ever heard. "Good one, fairy girl." "I'm deadly serious, human." "If you're serious," sighed Julius, reaching a delicate finger behind the lens to wipe away a tear. "Two reasons. One, Artemis said that while you're in a human dwelling, you have to do what we want, and I want you to stay on that cot." Holly closed her eyes. Right again. Where did this group get their information? "And two," Juliet smiled, but this time there was a hint of her brother in those teeth. "Two, because I went through the same training as Butler, and I've never been dying for somebody to practice my pile driver on." "Well, we'll see about that, human," thought Holly. Captain Short wasn't 100% yet, and there was also a small matter of the thing digging into her ankle. She thought she knew what it could be, and if she was right, then it could be the beginning of a plan. Commander Root had Holly's locator frequency keyed into her helmet face screen. It took Root longer than expected to reach Dublin. The modern wing rigs were more complicated than he was used to. Plus, he neglected to take refresher courses. At the right altitude, he could almost superimpose the luminous map on his visor over the actual Dublin street below. Almost. "Foley, you pompous centaur," he barked into his mouthpiece. "Problem, boss, man?" replied the tiny man. "Problem, you can say that again. When was the last time you updated the Dublin files?" Root could hear sucking noise in his ears. It sounded as though Foley was having lunch. "Sorry, Commander, just finished off this carrot. Dublin, let's see, 75, 1875. I thought so. This place is completely different. The humans have even managed to change the shape of the coastline." Foley was silent for a moment. Root could just imagine him wrestling with the problem. The centaur did not like to be told that any part of his system was out of date. "Okay," he said last, "here's what I'm going to do. We have a scope on a satellite TV bird with a footprint in Ireland." "I see," muttered Root, which was basically a lie. "I'm going to email last week's sweep direct to your visor. Luckily, there's a video card in all the new helmets. Luckily. The tricky bit will be to coordinate your flight pattern with the video feed." Root had had enough. "How long, Foley?" 2 minutes, give or take." "Give or take what?" "About 10 years if my calculations are off." "They'd better not be off then. I'll hover until we know." 124 seconds later, Root's black and white blueprint faded out to be replaced by a full-color daylight image. When Root moved, it moved, and Holly's locator beacon moved too. "Impressive," said Root. "What was that, Commander?" "I said impressive," Root shouted. No need to get a swelled head. The commander heard the sound of a room full of laughter and realized that Foley had him on speaker. Everyone had heard him complimenting the centaur's work. There'd be no talking to him for at least a month. But it was worth it. The video he was receiving now was bang up to date. If Captain Short is being held in a building, the computer would be able to give him 3D blueprints instantly. If it was foolproof, except, "Foley, the beacon's gone offshore. What's going on? Boat or ship? I'd say at a guess." Root cursed himself for not thinking of it. They'd be having a big laugh in the situation room. Of course it was a ship. Root dropped down a few hundred feet until its shadowy outline loomed through the mist. A whaler by the look of it. Technology may have changed over the centuries, but there was still nothing like a harpoon to slaughter the world's largest mammal. "Captain Short is in there somewhere, Foley. Below decks. What can you give me?" "Nothing, sir. It's not a permanent fixture. By the time we've run down her registration, it'd be way too late." "What about thermal imaging?" "No, Commander. The hull must be at least 50 years old. Very high lead content. We can't even penetrate the first layer. I'm afraid you're on your own. Root shook his head. After all the billions we've poured into your department, remind me to slash your budget when I get back. Yes, sir, came the reply, solid for once. Foley did not like budget jokes. Just have the retrieval squad on full alert. I'm making them at a moment's notice. I will, sir. You'd better. Over and out. Root was on his own. Truth be told, that was the way he liked it. No science, no uppity centaur whining in his ear, just a fairy, his wits, and maybe a touch of magic. Root tilted his polymer wings, hugging the underside of a fog bank. There was no need to be careful. With his shield activated, he was invisible to human eye. Even on stealth-sensitive radar, he would be no more than a barely perceptible distortion. The commander swooped low to the gunwales. It was an ugly craft, this one. The smell of death and pain lingered in the blood-swabbed decks. Many noble creatures had died here, had been dissected for a few bars of soap and some heating oil. Root shook his head. Humans were such barbarians. Holly's beeper was flashing urgently now. She was close by. Very close. Someone within a 200-foot radius was hopefully still breathing form of Captain Short, but without blueprints he would have to navigate the belly of the ship unaided. Root alighted gently on the deck, his boots adhering slightly to the mixture of dried soap and blubber coating the steel surface. The craft appeared to be deserted. No sentry on the gangplank, no bosun on the bridge, not a light anywhere. Still, no reason to abandon caution. Root knew from bitter experience that humans popped up when you least expected them. Once, when he was helping the retrieval boy scrape some pod wreckage off a tunnel wall, they were spotted by a group of potholing humans. What a mess that had been. Mass hysteria, high-speed chases, group mind wipes, the whole 9 yards. Root shuddered. A night like that could put decades on a ferry. Keeping himself fully shielded, the commander stowed his wings in their sheath, advanced on foot across the deck. There were no other life forms showing up on his screen, but like Foley said, the hull had a high lead content. Even the paint was lead-based. The entire boat was a floating eco-hazard. The point being there could be an entire battalion of stormtroopers concealed below deck, and his helmet cam would never pick them up. Very reassuring. Even Holly's beacon has a few shades below par, and that had a micronuclear battery sending out the pulse. Root didn't like this, not one bit. Keep calm, he derided himself. You're shielded. You're not a human alive. There's not a human alive that can see you now. Root hauled up the first hatch, swung easily enough. The commander sniffed. The mud people had greased the hinges with whale blubber. Was there no end to their depravity? The corridor was steeped with vicious darkness, so Root flicked down his infrared filter. Okay, so sometimes technology did come in handy. But he wouldn't be telling that. The maze of pipes and grilling before him was immediately illuminated with an unnatural red light. Minutes later, he was regretting even thinking something nice about the Centaur's technology. Their infrared filter was messing with his deep perception, and he whacked his head on 2 protruding U-bends so far. Still no sign of life, human or fairy. Plenty of animal, mostly rodent, and when you're just topping 3 feet in height yourself, a good-sized rat can be a real threat, especially since rats are one of the few breeds that can see straight through a fairy shield. Root unstrapped his blaster and set it to level 3, or medium rare, as the elves in the locker room called it. He set one of the rats scurrying away with his smoking behind as a warning to the rest. Nothing fatal, just enough to teach him not to look sideways at a fairy in a hurry again. Root picked up his pace. This place was ideal for an ambush. He was virtually blind with his back to the only exit. A recon nightmare. If one of his own men had pulled a stunt like this, he'd have their stripes for it. But desperate times required judicious risk-taking. That was the essence of command. He ignored several doors to either side, following the beacon, 10 feet now. A steel hatch sealed the corridor, and Captain Short or her corpse lay on the other side of it. Root put her shoulder to the door. It swung open without protest. Bad news. If a live creature was being held captive, the hatch would have been locked. The commander flicked the blaster power level to 5 and advanced through the hole. His weapon hummed softly. There was enough power on tap now to vaporize a bull elephant with a single blast. No sign of Holly, no sign of anything much. He was in a refrigerated storage bay. Glittering stalactites hung from a maze of piping. Root's breath fanned before him an icy cloud. How would it look to a human, disembodied breathing? "Ah," said a familiar voice, "we have a visitor." Root dropped to one knee, leveling the handgun at the voice source. "Come to rescue your missing officer, no doubt?" The commander blinked, a bead of sweat from his eyes. Sweat. At this temperature. "Well, I'm afraid you've come to the wrong place." Yeah. Right here. All right, pause a second. Just change it over here. The voice was tiny, artificial. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's that time. Get logged in. Love you. Thank you.
Love you too. The voice was tinny, artificial, amplified. Root checked his locator for life signs. There were none, not in this chamber at any rate. He was being monitored somehow. Was there a camera here somewhere, concealed in the maze of overhead plumbing that could penetrate the fairy shield? "Where are you? Show yourself!" The human chuckled. It echoed unnaturally around the vast hold. "Oh no, not yet, my fairy friend, but soon enough. And believe me, when I do, you'll wish I hadn't." Root followed the voice. "Keep the human talking. What do you want?" What do I want? Again, you will know soon enough." There was a low crate in the center of the hold. On it sat an attaché case. The case was open. "Why bring me here at all?" Root poked the case with his pistol. Nothing happened. "I brought you here for a demonstration." The commander leaned over the open container. Inside, in snug foam packing, were a flat vacuum-packed package and a triple-band VHF transmitter. Resting on top was Holly's locator. Root groaned. Holly wouldn't willingly give up her equipment. No LEP officer would. "What sort of demonstration, you demented freak?" Again that cold chuckle. "A demonstration of my utter commitment to my goals." Root should have started to worry about his own health then, but he was too busy worrying about Holly's. "If you've harmed one tip of my officer's pointy ears—" "Your officer? Oh, we have management. How privileged. All the better to make my point." Alarm bells went off in Root's head. "Your point?" The voice emanating from the aluminum speaker grid was as serious as a nuclear winter. "My point, little ferryman, is that I am not someone to be trifled with. Now, if you would please observe the package." The commander duly observed. It was a nondescript enough shape, flat like a slab of putty, or... Oh, no. Beneath the sealant, a red light flicked on. "Fly, little fairies," said the voice, "and tell your friends Artemis Fowl II says hello." Beside the red light, green symbols began to click through a routine. Root recognized them from his human studies class back in the academy. They were numbers, going backwards, a countdown. "Diarvit," growled Root. There is no point translating that word, as it would have to be censored. He turned and fled up the corridor, Artemis Fowl's mocking tones carrying down the metal funnel. "3, said the human. 2. "Diarvit," repeated Root. The corridor seemed much longer now. A sliver of starry sky peeked through the wedge of open door. Root activated his wings. This would take some fancy flying. The hummingbird's span was barely narrower than the ship's corridor. 1. Sparks flew as the electronic wings scraped a protruding pipe. Root cartwheeled, righting himself at Mach 1. 0, said the voice. Boom! Inside the vacuum package, a detonator sparked, igniting a kilogram of pure Semtex, the white-hot reaction devouring the surrounding oxygen in a nanosecond and surged down the path of least resistance, which was, of course, immediately after LEP Commander Root. Root dropped his visor, opening the throttle to maximum. The door was just a few feet away now. It was just a matter of what reached it first, the fairy or the fireball. He made it, barely. He could feel the explosion rattling his torso as he threw himself into a reverse loop. Flames latched onto his jumpsuit, licking along his legs. Root continued his maneuver, crashing directly into the icy water. He broke the surface, swearing. Above him, the whaler had been totally consumed by noxious flames. "Commander," came a voice in his earpiece. It was Foley. He was back in rage. "Commander, what's your status?" Root lifted free of the water's grip. "My status, Foley, is extremely annoyed. Get on your computers. I want to know everything there is to know about one Artemis Fowl, and I want to know it before I get back to base." "Yes, sir, Commander, right away." No wisecrack. Even Foley realized that this was not the time. Root hovered at 300 yards. Below him, the blazing whaler drew emergency vehicles like moths to a light. He dusted charred threads from his elbows. There will be a reckoning for this Artemis Fowl, he vowed. Count on it. Bye, guys. Love you.